Hi, my name's Jade Elvin and I'm a teacher here at Wyndham District High School up here in the East Kimberley. I'm sorry I'm not able to come down to present this lecture, but I'm sure you can understand the distance involved in me travelling that far. We have the added dilemma in remote Indigenous communities in that often we cannot get relief to replace us when we are away. So it's a consideration that you need to understand when you live this far away from the city. I have been working here since 2011. I was originally employed on a 3-term fixed-term contract to help with the influx of students because the government had shut down a Aboriginal community up here called Umbulgari. What happened after that was that due to the increased size of the Wyndham District High School, we decided to create, or admin decided to create, an extra classroom. So I went from a shared teaching position of the 5-6 class and I moved into my own classroom in 2012, and I've been the Year 4 and 5 teacher ever since. This was my first teaching job. I came up here as a new graduate. It's been a fantastic roller coaster ride. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and as previously mentioned, I was originally here for 3 terms and I'm now going into my 4th year up here. I'd like to talk to you today about the importance of establishing relationships when you move to small communities such as Wyndham. Some of you may be considering applying for a teaching position in the remote teaching service, and I would thoroughly encourage you to do so. But you need to come here with the right attitude. You need to come here understanding that you are not a missionary. You are not here to save people. You are not a mercenary. You're not here just for the money. And hopefully you're not highly medicated and you're not escaping anybody or anything. You need to have a particular type of skill set, both socially and educationally, and you need to be a resilient person. We really are in the middle of nowhere, and we're not even as remote as some other schools in the remote teaching service. We don't get cut off in the wet season, and we do have access to facilities, recreational facilities, and we also have access to shops, and there is a community club. Though we do drive to Kununurra, which is 110 kilometres away, to do our food shopping. It is a very small community. We have 800 people, of which about 300 of those are government workers, so nurses, doctors, teachers, police, and other support roles, Shire Council, recreation officers, youth officers. And then a large proportion of that is also children. We have a functioning community. It's a lovely place to live. We do have alcohol restrictions, but as a community we generally run exceptionally well. I wear many hats in this community. I will touch on them briefly throughout this lecture just to highlight the importance of integrating yourself within a community. If you are exceptionally shy or you like personal space, this might not be the place for you, because Indigenous students are very tactile, they're very kinesthetic, and they like to hug you and be a part of you and your family, and they like to visit you, they like to check your hair for nets. So you have to be willing to open up when you come here and to take on board the experience. It has more positives that outweigh the negatives. And I'm going to, throughout this lecture, introduce you to some of the students, to some of my admin and some of the other teachers, to other people that are in the community, and get some different perspectives on what creates good teachers in the remote teaching service, and how important establishing relationships is, and that integral connection with students and parents and the community in general. So I hope you enjoy this presentation and it's not too boring. This is my EA for the last 4 years. Her name is Abby French. She has been my anchor and my guiding light, and has helped me to understand the family structures within the community. She comes along to all my home visits and helps me to communicate with the parents effectively. She's a very gentle soul. She's very quiet but has a lot of inner strength, and there's no way I could have done this job as successfully and as happily without Abby's help. And how long have you worked at the school?
This is my 9th year. That was high school, yeah.
Fantastic. And 4 of them you've been stuck with me. Oh. I'd like to ask you, we're talking about the importance of connection with the community. So I'd like to ask your opinion about what makes good teachers that try to connect with the community. What are those kind of teachers? What do they do? What do they look like? What kind of personalities do they have? Those that do.
Most of them that try and connect with the community have, I suppose, bubbly personality, friendly, speak nicely, I suppose, outspoken people, not too outspoken, but they get across to the community like they want to do something with children in the school or in this community, within the community. I suppose to help the individuals with their education.
And can you think of any sort of positive things that I might have done in the classroom that has helped to connect with students in the classroom?
Firstly, maybe the child's respect.
Yeah.
That would be one of the greatest outcomes for any new teacher that comes up here. They have to, because you have some kids with problems, social problems from outside. They come to school. Sometimes it's hard for them to get on really trust their teacher. But once working with them for a while and their family, then that's showing that child can trust you.
Is that important as well? Because once the child trusts you, then it's easier for the teacher to then approach the family, and then the family to also...
Yeah, and also that family will know who you are.
Yeah.
And then you're able to go out into the community on your own rather than having the EA or teacher's aid or someone from the school, indigenous person. But because that family trusts you now, they're happy to work or walk. Yeah. So you're not only earning the child's trust, you're also earning the child's family's trust.
And they talk in the community, don't they? They talk about the teachers and, the good things and the bad things. And
right, that happens in the school.
Yeah, and how they treat. They might be talking about how you've treated another student that's in their family.
Yeah.
So
all connected.
yeah.
So then the whole extended family knows who you are.
Yeah. And that extended family is big.
Big. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Abby. One of the challenges that teachers face when moving into the remote teaching service is that schools are very small and that there is usually only one school in your area. So sometimes teachers have the pleasure or misfortune, in my case pleasure, of teaching their own children. So this is my son, Ezekiel, and I was his teacher last year in Year 4. How was that a challenge for you, Ez?
Well, probably one of the main challenges is always being the example. If she ever wanted to like prove something or do something, she'd like make me the example. But it was still one of the funnest years of my life.
Oh, thank you, Ezekiel. I'd like to note that I did not pay him to say that.
Really?
Thank you. You can cut. I'd like to introduce Christine Williams. Christine's been working at the school for an exceptional number of years. How many years have you worked at the school, Christine?
24 years.
And have you lived in Wyndham most of your life?
I was born and bred here. I'm a traditional owner for Wyndham area.
Thank you. And also the important thing to mention here is that Christine was the AIEO of the Year for 2013, of which we're very proud.
Thank you.
So over the 24 years that you've worked here at the school, you've seen a lot of teachers come and go in that time. What makes a good teacher, one that connects with the students in the community? What do those teachers have that makes them stand out?
Well, as you all know, when you come to the Kimberleys, Aboriginal children up here have a very different learning style. So they're more hands-on, watching with their eyes. It's not the teacher standing up in front of the classroom. They don't learn like that. They're watchful, yeah.
So you have to, when you move here, be prepared to teach in a different way than you would back in the city.
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of attributes or what kind of things do the teachers do that make them positive in the community, where families go, oh yeah, that teacher's alright, you should go to school, you've got a good teacher, or what are those connections?
The connection is, it's all about when you come up to the Kimberleys to have that inductions with your AIOs, winning the child over in the classroom, like listening to them, finding out how they feel, what are they bringing through the front gate every morning, what invisible bag they bring through. So, and it's earning their trust, listening to that child, and then you go out to the community, you have your morning tea, or you can do your community rounds with your AIO, visiting the parent, showing them the standard or positive words for that child.
Yeah, not just visiting when it's for a negative. It's very important.
It's best to not only do negative stuff, it's more important that you take out and show the good stuff that the kids achieved, and to keep them on task, they'll support you that way, because they know what their child can do.
Thank you. And you've done the Deadly Smart,
Stronger, Smarter.
Thank you. Or Being Deadly.
I did that Stronger, Smarter course, and the main thing that I targeted in this school, that I came back and said to all the teachers, all the classrooms, that I am going to introduce the circle work, the thumbs up, how you're feeling in the morning. So I went through all the classroom and making sure that that program runs through, and also carried on and went through the classrooms with more positive stuff out of that Stronger, Smarter course.
Yes, and I have to say I've really benefited from using that strategy in my classroom. We start the day with what we call is check-in, and you could be having a good day, an okay day, or a bad day. If you're having a bad day and you can't verbalise how you're feeling, you can at least show me physically with your thumb. Some students like to talk about how they're feeling, and they feel the need to, if they feel safe, to express why they're feeling sad. And I also copied from you and Jen Wolf actually, the check out at the end of the day is just as important as the check in. Yeah.
And as we started that program, the little Aboriginal boys, I noticed that their thumbs, they just did the thumbs, or they said pass. When I went through that, at the end of the day, they said, I'm feeling really sad because my uncle died, or my family had a fight and I had no sleep last night, or I'm really hungry. So we couldn't shut them up in the end, so they actually came out and spoke about their feelings.
And this is important because once you can verbalise how you're feeling, then in a way you're asking for help and you can get that help. So
Yeah.
that hopefully we're bringing those suicide rates down in our community, because small children are going to grow up to learn that
It's okay to talk to anyone.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, with that sharing time in the morning, is that you're actually telling the teacher how you feel, what you went through last night, everything that happened to you outside there, so that everyone, the awareness is with the children, the awareness is also there with the teacher. So everyone will say, oh, little Johnny, he is really tired from last night. So everyone all look after little Johnny, or the teacher don't put that pressure on them.
Exactly, and that's very beneficial as a teacher, but it also gives the class ownership of each other. It creates a classroom that cares about each other. You'll find kids will say to each other, oh, I've got an apple here, do you want to have that? You've had no breakfast. Or, maybe students they don't normally talk to or sit next to. It might be simple things like sharing their colouring in pencils with them on that particular day, or giving them a sticker, or as a teacher, me not pushing them quite as hard as I might normally, knowing that they've had a bad night. So thank you very much, Christine. I really appreciate that you've taken the time to come and talk to all of us about this very important, how to connect with small communities, because we are a small community. You can't come here and be invisible.
No, you can't just come up here and not spend time with the kids, finding out how they feel, and going and meeting the parents to getting them on your side. So education is important for that child, but support of the parents,
Our morning check-in.
On another note too, I'd like to address teachers that go to university. They go to uni and they study to be a teacher, and they get sent up here to the Kimberleys. In the Kimberleys, you've got small towns and isolated remote schools, and they go there and they've got this tunnel vision. They've been to university. I'm going to go up there and teach, just this tunnel vision. I've been taught how to teach these children. It doesn't work that way up here. You need to work in with your AIOs, get to know your community, find out what area you'd like to teach, and if it's isolation school, remote schools, find out more about the townships up here. Because I experienced new graduate teachers coming up here to Wyndham School, and they didn't treat me right. They treated me bad because they got taught how to teach these kids. And they didn't want an Aboriginal person telling them, oh, I'm in here with you, and this is my town and that. I just let them try and teach how they were taught at university. It doesn't work. You have to work in with your AIO. And all I'm strongly saying is come up to the Kimberleys, find out, do a bit of research on which areas you want to teach. It doesn't work. You have to meet us halfway, your AIOs. Use your AIOs, because we all want the same thing, good education for their students.
I'd like to introduce Senior Aboriginal Police Liaison Officer Rex McIntosh. Thank you very much for taking the time to be interviewed today, Rex.
Yes, okay.
How long have you been here at Wyndham?
In Wyndham about nearly 18 years.
Okay, so during that time you've seen a lot of teachers come and go from the school?
A lot of teachers come and go from the school, from both schools really.
Yes,
and
true.
A lot of police and family, police with their family come and go.
Yes, so the Indigenous population here, not only themselves being transient, but also see the government workforce as also being transient. Not very many people decide to stay here, do they?
No, not many, I think, and a lot of them, I think with their children's, because they get that certain age where, you know, when the kids need the next level of schooling, or
Yes.
a lot of them move on to a bigger school.
Yes.
And, you know,
Or send them away.
they send them away, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, seen a lot come and go.
So I'd like to talk about briefly the importance of not only teachers being positive out in the community, but we also work together with the Adopt a Cop program. How do you find that as being positive in our community for building relationships with students?
Oh, I find that pretty positive, really.
Yeah.
Because I attend St. Joseph School.
Yes.
And the Wyndham District High School.
Yes.
And it's, you know, just sit in with the kids and build a relationship up with them, and so they can get to know us more better.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're just not, the police is not just out there picking up people and locking them up. You know,
Yeah.
that's a lot of the questions you get from the little kids at school. You know, they're going to lock this person up, lock that person up.
Yeah.
But, you know, we look at that. I tell them, have a look on the other side of what we do as well, you know, in the community, like the police supports the community.
Yes.
And we get involved in a lot of
Programs, yeah.
in the school,
Yeah.
in the community. Like we run it's called a PCYC Blue Light now.
Yes.
Used to be called Police Disco.
Yeah.
Blue Light Disco, but we run that.
Yeah,
And
and that's very positive, and
very
that
positive.
has a very good reaction from the students or
Yeah.
all the children in the community. It also brings both the schools together
Yeah.
as well, which is important.
And you know, the kids look forward to that. We have one every
Once a month?
Once a month.
Yeah.
And the kids look forward to it. And even like if there's any other little activities that different organisations in the community are running, we participate in that as well.
Yeah.
And lending helping hands, you know. Even just giving out water bottles or hats or whatever we have at that time.
Yeah.
And be a part of the community, really.
Yeah, and thank you very much for being a part of our Schools Adopt a Cop program and helping to build those positive relationships so that police and teachers and health workers aren't seen as something different, that you know, that we are all here working positively together for their education. So thank you very much for giving up your time today, Rex.
You're welcome.
I'd like to introduce Mark Williams, my principal here at Wyndham District High School. Mark, what's your experience in working predominantly in Indigenous communities?
Thanks, Jade. We've been here for 5 years, so we've had 5 years at Wyndham District High School, which has about 70% Aboriginal students. And before that I spent 3 years as principal at Bidjadanga Lagrange Remote Community School, which had 99% Indigenous students, and there was about 200 kids there. So the last 8 years I spent mainly working in predominantly Aboriginal communities.
Excellent. So you come to this with quite a bit of experience then.
A bit of experience, but not all the knowledge in the world. You're forever learning, and you can never take things for granted in Aboriginal communities because each of them are uniquely different, and they throw up lots and lots of things that you have to take into consideration. So.
Excellent, thank you very much. I'd like to direct us to our school strategic plan. One of the mission outlines in our document is the importance of developing relationships with all members of the school community, and we believe that through these relationships we can improve outcomes for all our students in all areas, which is exactly what we're trying to express here in this lecture today. So what are some of the strategies that our school has taken on board and to be able to connect with the community as a whole?
If I go back to the first year that we arrived, and by saying we I mean my wife, the primary deputy principal, the school, the behaviour of the students was impinging on their ability to learn.
Yes.
Whilst there was strong curriculum focus in the school, the behaviour was such that it was getting in the way of what we were trying to deliver in teaching and learning, and teachers were struggling to get across any messages about students being able to be literate and numerate because of behaviour was in the way. So we had to look at something that addressed that behaviour, but also brought together the school as a whole. So we did a review of the Managing Student Behaviour program and the strategies, but we also looked at what was going on in the classrooms in terms of the teaching and learning and the pedagogy. So having done that, we then surveyed staff and also parents. We had a snapshot done through Dare to Lead, through WAPA, and that showed us where we needed to connect more in the classroom, but also showed where we needed to connect more in the community. The school was a place where there was things going on, but people in the community didn't feel they were part of it, or not that they were unwelcome, but not being an active part in it. So we then looked at some things that were available to us, and we came across the 6 kinds of best.
Yes.
Now, 6 kinds of best, everyone thinks it's a feel-good, fuzzy values program, but what it morphed into, having been implemented, established, and then reviewed and monitored, is it's turned into what's called the Wyndham Way, which encapsulates everything that we do at the school. It's an architecture for success. It's architecture for success in that it guides our practices both in the classrooms, but also as a school, and how we interrelate with our community and how we get the community to be part of the school. And now it is something that becomes part of our everyday language.
Yes.
It's something that we all know about, being kind to yourself, kind to others, learning kind, achieving kind, kind to the community and the environmental kind. And all of those things, as I said before, it encapsulates every single thing that happens at the school. And even though we're talking about people think it's values, those values have to be seen in the classroom, and that is about saying to children, you should be working as hard as you can. I'm going to equip you with the skills, the knowledge and the understanding to improve your outcomes, whether those outcomes be academic, whether they be emotional or social.
Excellent, thank you. So some of the strategies that we've put in place to make the community feel welcome in our school, I'd just like to have a talk about them, if that's okay. So we have the big breakfast, and occasionally it's the big barbecue. So I think things like this are great because they welcome community members into our school, and they feel a part of it. Is that something that you came here with an idea, or?
I think the first couple of weeks that we arrived in 2010, I noticed straight away that there wasn't many parents would drop kids off at the front, or kids were just wandering by themselves, and that's not unusual in communities such as ours. But I really wanted to get to know some of the parents, and I thought, well, it was hard at that stage to be able to go out a lot, so we thought the idea would be to get, if you build it, they will come, like Field of Dreams. So we thought, well, if you have a big breakfast, everyone likes a feed, and if they can smell eggs and bacon, they'll come. And they did, and I think we had well over 200 people the first time, and that made people think that the school was a place they could come. They might have had bad memories of their own time at school.
Yes.
So you have to take that into account. If they'd gone to a mission school or just a state school where they didn't feel they were welcome, we wanted them to make sure they felt welcome. So to get them in for a social thing initially, but then what we really wanted to do was make sure that they became part of the culture of the school. So when the Wyndham Way was being done, we made sure that we had information sessions for parents and community members, so they could come in and see what the Wyndham Way meant, hear the language, the priming and all those sorts of things that we do. So they would feel part of, well, what's the Wyndham Way? It's not only what goes on at schools, it's the banner. The banner's on the way into town, it's the fence outside the picture garden, it's the adopt an area, it's the adopt a cop, it's earn your colours. There's all the language that's intertwined with the Wyndham Way.
And the Adopt a Cop program, I think, is quite an important one because it brings the police force into our school in a positive light.
Yes.
And enables students to feel like they can say hello to them and have a relationship with them out in the community. That is also a positive one. Very much so.
They don't see police then as just being who uphold the law or enforce the law and are there to tell you when you're not doing the right thing. They're coming to school so that the children get to see the police in a positive light.
Yes.
They're part of the good things that go on in our community, and of course the police take part in things out of school. We have blue light discos and things like that as well. So
true. Thank you very much. Just one more thing. The Bushrangers program has been very successful in our school, especially with our high school students, and engaging them back into school for some of those students that were sort of a little bit on the edge. Can you just briefly tell me a little bit about the Bushranger program?
We looked at things like Clontarf, but Clontarf was for boys only, and it was only for Aboriginal boys. And as I said at the beginning, there was 70% of our students are Aboriginal, but that gives us a sizable cohort in the high school who are non-Aboriginal, so they couldn't take part in Clontarf. Plus, there didn't seem to be a critical mass of boys who could have taken part in it for it to be viable.
Yeah.
So we looked at something like bush rangers because it meant that boys and girls could be involved, Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal students. It also had an environmental bent, which fits in with being kind to the environment. It also means we go out to the community. As you know, we go to Equestro, we go to Home Valley, we do things in the community, we do toad busting. So it had all of those things, plus it had a bit of self-discipline. As you know, I teach drill, and the kids have got uniforms. Brett Gaskell does a wonderful job in marshalling their forces. So it was something that we felt met the needs of every single student, not only academically, but also the social and emotional things, and in and out of school. So it's been a very, very good mix for us, and it's probably been the guiding light program outside of what goes on in the classrooms for the whole school. So, and of course there's also involved in Stephanie Alexander Kitchen Garden, the Wastewise, and all of those things as well. So it's been very, very successful.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to ask one more question.
Sure.
How important, or what importance would you place on the positive home visits that teachers make out into visiting parents in the community?
It's vital that teachers go out, that it's not seen. School can't operate in a silo where teachers think, it's here, this is my job, you need to come in. Teachers need to get out. Admin needs to get out. Going out and doing work with Robin, the school-based attendance officer, going out in the car, being seen, being high visibility in the community is vitally important. So they know that we don't just operate in the school, that we go out, we visit, we see people where they feel comfortable. Of course, you always make sure that you're being culturally proficient by taking someone with you, that you wait till you're welcomed, wait till you're introduced, all those sorts of things that become inherent when you've been in a community for a while. But you must make the effort to go out to the community. School can't operate as a standalone entity. It's a hub and it's a place where learning happens, but it's out there in the community and meeting parents and meeting people who in the town with influence. That's vitally important for teachers to be successful at our school.
Excellent. Thank you very much for giving us your time. This is Robin Martin, Wyndham District High School's attendance officer. She plays a very important role in the running of our school and working with those students that are at high risk of truancy and have low attendance. So in your role as attendance officer, you target those students that are high risk. What is a high risk student?
I guess a high risk student, would come with, it's in this town, that comes from this town that probably live with parents that are involved in like domestic violence, a lot of alcohol, a lot of social problems. High risk students are transient, very transient up this end, they go from family to family, between communities and communities, following funerals. That's a big thing up here in the Kimberleys. So I'd say that'll be a high risk student.
Okay, and often they come in family groups as opposed to just particular one-off students. Do you target families or just?
I target families, and it is mainly, predominantly families, and it's always just maybe 4 or 5 families that at that high risk
level. And what kind of things do you do? Do you go and talk to the families and the students all together and talk to them about the importance of coming to school?
Yeah, I think that's basically what it is. It's just going, knocking on their doors, not being, confronting or anything. Talking to them, finding out ways that we can get their kids to school, working with them, finding out how we can help, how they should be helping, and how we can just work together to get their kids to school.
Thank you. Your job is exceptionally important. Thank you very much. I imagine that sometimes there's quite hard days, and some days there'd be some great success stories.
Yeah. It can be really, really frustrating, especially when you've got to go to a particular house daily, and you get the same answers all the time, and living in a small town, we know exactly what's going on. So, yes, and the successes, always a good feeling.
Do you think some of the disengagement that some of the students find with coming to school isn't necessarily with the school, but is with the problems that are occurring in their life outside of school?
Oh, definitely. It's the problems that are happening outside. I mean, if they're not going to have their parents backing them up behind them and doing things with them, they're not going to come. So you always see that it's not the kids' fault.
Thank you very much for sharing your views with us, City Folk. I'd like to introduce Carolyn Williams. She's our primary school deputy here at Wyndham District High School. Thanks for meeting with me today, Carolyn. How many years have you been teaching in Indigenous or remote school communities?
Well, I've been in education for well over 20 years now. I don't really want to think about that, but anyway. Mostly my work has been as a deputy principal, so I was promoted at quite a young age, and that was when I was working in Port Hedland, so there was a high Indigenous population of students there. Previous to that, I actually came from a remote community school in Colombaroo, not far from here. From Hedland we moved to Kalgoorlie, again high Indigenous population, and then a few years in Perth where there were Aboriginal students at our school, but then back up into the Kimberley. So the bulk of my work has been working with Aboriginal students and their families.
Great. So I'd like to ask you, how important is teacher relationships with students for attendance?
I guess in any context it's really important, but I would say in Aboriginal communities, Indigenous communities, it's probably one of the most important things, particularly if you're going into a remote setting like ours, where there's always a high turnover of staff. I think for children to want to come to school, they have to have a connection to the school. They have to have a relationship with the teacher and with the people that work there. So I think it's really important that teachers work hard to make the children feel safe, to feel valued, and to feel like they have every opportunity, just like every other student, to be successful at school. So the relationships for me is one of the major reasons why I think we have success at our school and we have such a good attendance rate, because the teachers here believe that that's a strategy that works and make a genuine effort to get out and meet the families and to try and build those relationships with the children in their class. And we have a range of strategies at our school that help us to do that. Probably one of the biggest things is our Wyndham Way program, and I think it's so fantastic because it focuses on the individual first and foremost, and about promoting and discovering and celebrating their uniqueness and their abilities, and then it builds on that from there, as you well know, so diverging a little bit.
But it does give a framework, so if you're new to the area, it gives you a starting point to be able to communicate with the students in a language that they understand, that they've already learned, and that can work as well out in the community as well.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that we talk a lot about here at Wyndham is our school culture, and the Wyndham Way has helped us to really establish that school culture. But having that culture of a positive attitude and high expectations, and really instilling in children that having a positive attitude is something that comes from within, and having high expectations for them and for themselves is paramount to having some success at school. And of course, hand in hand with that though goes the pedagogy and the curriculum. So it's great to have a place where you feel really welcomed and, you know, valued, but unless you have the curriculum that supports that, I don't think you can maintain the good attendance or the strong relationships, because the work that teachers do has to be relevant. It has to be very targeted. We have quite a teaching and direct instruction, and we know through the research that they're the sorts of strategies that really help particularly Aboriginal students to do well at school. They often come without standard Australian English as their first language.
Yes.
So, you know, one of the things that we focus on here is a lot of oral language strategies and being able to speak in standard Australian English. You have to have that skill before you can write in it and read it and understand it. So, yes, relationships is probably for me the most important thing, but as I say, hand in hand with that goes the curriculum.
Excellent. Just one more question. It's very related to the first question in how important is teacher relationships with community members for student attendance. So it's about the importance of going out there, being seen, being approachable, being friendly, making home visits for positives. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Well, again, I think it's another reason why we have such a good attendance rate is because part of our attendance strategy is doing those home visits. So it's not, I mean, whilst it's there to get those kids that are, you know, sitting below 80%, we always encourage staff to go out and do some positive home visits before you ever have to go out for a negative home visit. I mean, it just kind of makes sense to get some credits in the bank. The other thing I was going to say about that is that I think the parents will know a lot more about you even before they've ever met you. And that is because of the relationships that you form with their children. So everybody in the community will know which teachers are liked and unfortunately disliked, which teachers they think are kind and caring and good teachers. And again, I don't think that's about developing friendships, but I think that's about consistency and security and safety and care and having an empathy for the environment that some of these children come from and the struggles that some of these children have. So I think a teacher who has that, kids will tell other family members, and Granny will know and Mum will know and Dad will know and everybody will know you way before you know any of them. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for your time, Carolyn. I appreciate it. Some strategies I use in my classroom to give students ownership of the rules and regulations with which we run our classroom is at the beginning of the year we all work together to create these rules. And then we have a behaviour management system in place if you don't follow the above rules that we all agreed on as a class. This may seem like a slightly infantile behaviour management system for upper primary, but you have to remember that most Indigenous students are visual learners. They like to see what is happening and they like to be able to get up and move around. So though it can be embarrassing to have to come up here to move your peg, which has your name on it, up to, you know, a warning, I need to try harder, it does pull them into line in that they need to get on with their work or they need to stop that particular behaviour. The student might then spend the next 15 or 20 minutes doing the correct thing, so they get to come up here and move their peg back down and feel successful in front of the whole classroom. These types of strategies enable students, as I said before, to have ownership of how their classroom runs. It creates for them their own responsibility to a situation, and they have that clear structure and that clear scaffolding of what is expected of them as far as their positive attitude and having high expectations. Another visual aid that I use in my classroom is a follow-on from our rules over there above the board, and what these help the students to see and to understand is that there are rewards for coming to school. Not only do you get to learn, but you also get to do fun things. So with 80% attendance, you can go to excursions and incursions, and at the end of each term you can win cash prizes. So all names are put into a bucket, and if you're over 80% you can win 10, 20 and 30, but to win those prizes you do have to be here at school. I've written down some notes. I hope you don't mind me reading from them. I had a bit of a mind map moment with a colleague of mine who's been teaching a lot longer than I have, and we tried to succinctly put down what it is that is really integral to being a teacher here in the Kimberley. You should always remember that by far the most effective behaviour management tool you can ever employ is the strength of your relationships with an individual student. The development of genuine, reciprocal and respectful relationships with individuals will always have a stronger impact in helping students engage with learning than will ever any extrinsic system. Relationship-based practices are of pivotal importance in the Kimberley. You will not succeed as a teacher in the Kimberley without them at the core of your everyday work. Student-teacher relationships are key to school engagement. Just to build on what we've talked about earlier in this lecture in our Wyndham Way program, or our 6 kinds of best that we have adopted here at the school, here is a visual chart that we use in the classroom so that students can have ownership of their own behaviour and what they are required to do to become successful in these areas. As we've mentioned, there's 6 kinds of best: kind to yourself, kind to others, the environment kind, the learning kind, the achieving kind and the community kind. And students get to feel successful by popping stickers up here when they have shown that they have successfully completed that, or they've shown that they're doing those types of things out there in the community. Maybe they've been toad busting, maybe they've complimented others. Though these are all extrinsic programs, as I've mentioned earlier, it's your core relationship with students that will always give you the best success in a classroom, no matter where you are. I'd like to introduce you to a fellow volunteer of mine. This is Jackie Turnbull.
How you going?
Thank you very much for coming out today, Jackie, and answering a few questions. So Jackie and I went through our ambulance training together here in Wyndham. As with all small communities, they run basically on volunteers. So Jackie, how do you think being a member of the ambulance service has helped you to build relationships within the community?
Yeah, well, obviously, like Jade said, being a small community, there are only a few sort of volunteers. Now there are a few more, which is fantastic. But I think just, getting those calls out and meeting people when they sort of need our help, we sort of see them sometimes, when they're quite vulnerable, and, just sort of building a nice relationship with them. And then when we see them out of uniform, just, out and about during the day, they're always really, eager to sort of say hi, approach us, have a chat to us, which is really great.
Occasionally thank us.
Occasionally thank us, yeah.
So being a volunteer in the ambulance service, has that helped you to build relationships with some of the students at school? I forgot to mention Jackie is also one of our most prized EAs at the high school, district high school.
Yes. Obviously as well, when we go out to calls, there are kids from the school that are sometimes there, and they're always saying hi as well, and again that's a good sort of starting point of conversation with the kids next day at school. They say, oh hi Miss Jackie, we saw you at the job the other night, have a quick chat. So again that sort of builds a good relationship with the kids, and they then find you easy to approach and have a chat to. So again, there's just that, communication and that, getting to know one another.
That building of relationships is quite important when they see you helping Nana at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Definitely.
They remember that at school the next day. Definitely. And they know that you understand already what kind of night that they've had.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for your time,
No
Jackie. I
worries.
greatly appreciate it. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation about the importance of building and maintaining relationships in small and Indigenous communities. I would like to give you the recommendation that as students that you join the SSTUWA. It's an excellent networking resource. It gives you support and it lets you know your rights, especially when you are in a very remote location. Tony Mellons has written this excellent book which enables you to find out what your rights are really easily and quickly. Another document I'd like to highlight to you is one by Gary Partington through the Education Department. It was written in 2006. And it highlights things that are just common sense when you move to a new community. Immerse yourself good-naturedly. Be firm and consistent and fair in all that you do, especially in the classroom as well as in the community. Ensure that the curriculum has elements of cultural relevance and be calm and pleasant. Don't shout, and encourage students to have high expectations of themselves. I would recommend engaging informally with parents and students as often as you can. Remember, in small towns, everywhere you go, there are students and parents. Listen to your AIEOs, they are a wealth of knowledge and experience. And lastly, remember, you are one of, if not the most significant role model in these children's lives. You have a responsibility to be professional in everything you do. Your actions will greatly influence every student that you ever teach. Thank you.